And I used to read the Harvard Business Review a lot. So I had this romantic view of how consultancies should run. It wasn't quite that. So I crossed over to PwC and I did, then it was PW, became PwC as I was there, still in HR, consulting for about, 6 years, I think. And then went back to Deloitte.
Wow.
In line management.
In line management. Still HR?
Still HR. I was the head of HR for the East Africa region, but also supporting a couple of offices in Africa.
So that's how you began your career in HR?
That's how I began my career in HR. By default.
By default?
Completely.
That was the only opening that was available?
That was the one that was available. My friend heard about it, connected me, I was interviewed, and they gave me the job. Growing up, we were encouraged to work hard so that you can do well in school, so that you can get a good job.
Get a good job. So many
But I couldn't get a good job because I did well. Isn't that ironical?
Oh.
Yes. So I went knocking different doors and I'm told, with your performance, we know you're going back to school. I had never considered a master's degree, never, because I was already so tired. My time used to go until third year, and by the time you're third year, the acronym was TTY, tired third year. So we didn't just want to see anything to do with books. But nobody would give me a job because you did so well, you will go back to academia.
Of your own success.
Can you imagine? Another God's intervention. So on an idle afternoon, I don't have a job. I stop at what was Kenya Times then. And a friend of mine is there and he says, you guys, what are you doing? I was with my very good friend, the one of the head of rats. And he says, so you guys were very good at school, always in the library. Have you considered doing a master's? And we say, no. He says, no, in fact, at University of Nairobi, my friend is the one who runs that program. Why don't we go and see him? We go and see the fellow. He was just wrapping up the applications for the master's program. And this guy says, just hold on, give these two girls a chance. So they're not planned at all. Following day in Meru, because I had to have the chief sign a few forms. And that's how I went to do my MBA at the University of Nairobi.
That's now Kabete.
That's Lower Kabete. With a scholarship from the University of Nairobi, which was completely unusual because I was from a rival campus. So that's how I did my MBA.
So again, MBA specialized in something?
Specializing in business administration still, but that now was more on the management side. Now, while I was still at KU, the dean of my faculty, unknown to me, had applied to Cambridge University because apparently they had an arrangement with KU for the top students. So before I could even finish my MBA, I had a scholarship to go and study
in Cambridge.
In Cambridge.
Wow, the prestigious Cambridge.
You know. So I asked them to defer because I was just tail end. They said, we'll defer, but guess what? You're going to get into the competition list afresh with the lot now in the subsequent year, which I did. And I still got the scholarship.
Wow.
So I went and I did a Master of Philosophy there for just about a year.
That's another thing I didn't know about you.
There's so much you don't know. For about a year and a bit, and I came back. And as soon as I came back, that's why I said it's God's grace. Deloitte was hiring. A friend of mine was working there. She said, you come and interview. Believe it or not, I had gone to clear my stuff from the airport. And because it delayed, so I wasn't dressed at all for an interview or anything because I knew I'd go to the airport, clear, then so I went to meet the MD with the dust and everything.
Straight from the airport.
But I still got the job. So did Deloitte for a bit in consultancy, then crossed over to PwC, where I was for
What were you doing for Deloitte?
Consultancy, human resource consultancy.
HR.
Fresh.
So that was, I've always known you in HR. So that was the commencement of HR and
exactly.
Catherine Wahome.
And now that I didn't get law, so the next, I knew nothing about HR. It was just those places you learned because that is what is available. And that's how my career in HR began. Yes.
Wow.
So I did there for a bit, for about a year and a half, because it wasn't too busy. And I used to read the Harvard Business Review a lot. So I had this romantic view of how consultancies should run. It wasn't quite that. So I crossed over to PwC, and I did, then it was PW, became PwC as I was there, still in HR, consulting for about, 6 years, I think. And then went back to Deloitte.
Wow.
In line management.
In line management. Still HR?
Still HR. I was the head of HR for the East Africa region, but also supporting a couple of offices in Africa.
So that's how you began your career in HR?
That's how I began my career in HR. By default.
By default?
Completely.
That was the only opening that was available?
That was the one that was available. My friend heard about it, connected me, I was interviewed, and they gave me the job.
And I mean, I've always seen you being very passionate about HR. So how did you end up getting all this passion? It's not something you are looking from the beginning.
Like I said, I always knew I wanted to work with people. Growing up, I got into a lot of trouble with my mother because, like I said, compared to the village, you are quite privileged. So I had more than one sweater, I had a pair of shoes. So July, you're meeting these very small children, nothing to wear, so I'll just offload my sweater and give them. So there's something that always gives me joy to see somebody move from a disadvantaged position to an advantaged position. In my boarding school, I did quite well. I mean, God has blessed me in that space, so I spent a lot of time teaching others, and when I would go home, I would talk about it with a lot of pride, you know, until one day my mother asked me, so you're busy teaching others, when are you reading? You know, but it's just that idea of helping somebody else move to...
It clicked something in you.
Just something in me, and right through, actually, I have just been somewhere helping somebody do something, and not how would I put it, empowering. I think that's the word I would use, because I want you to be able to do it for yourself. So I guess getting into the space of HR came so naturally for me, because really that's what you do.
That's what you do
every day. Helping people move from one point.
It's about people's welfare.
It's about people's welfare. And I remember when I went into line management, because it was very different from consulting. And the first day I went, and you know, in consulting, you've got either a proposal you're preparing, you've got a report you're doing, you've got data you're collecting. But when I started my line job, I remember sitting the whole day, and all I did was talk to people, and they're not talking to you about positive things. And I went home very tired and asked, what have I done today? Because I was used to something tangible. But I think that was the beginning of me now doing meaningful things, where I would see somebody come to my office depressed, almost in tears, and they walk out laughing. And at that point, I would feel my job for the day is done. I can pack and go home.
That satisfaction.
It's just that satisfaction that somebody's life is better because of something
that you did.
That I did,
So 1.5 years in PwC, sorry, in Deloitte.
In Deloitte, yes.
Then PwC 6 years.
About 6 years.
Then back to Deloitte.
For 12 years.
For 12 years. Oh my goodness. Then what happened after that?
After what I've realized about myself, I'm a very project person, very project driven. So for the 12 years I did in Deloitte, there was a lot of change. One of my first assignment in Deloitte was to introduce performance management, to institutionalize that. So that was exciting because it's change, it's something new and so on. Then shortly after, it was regionalization. Deloitte East Africa now was taking shape. So I was right at the heart of that. Then shortly after that, there was the Pan-Africa move, so bringing on board Nigeria, Ghana, Mauritius. So that was very exciting. But now once all that was done, we moved now from change, so there was no adrenaline, with now maintenance. And for me, I'm thinking, I'm going to the office, I can sort of tell you what my day will look like.
Yes.
And by then, of course, you've put systems into place, you've put structures into place, so people don't even see you anymore. You've got a whole team that people come and see. And I realized I was also getting a bit disruptive for the team because I'm changing
You're looking
things.
for change.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm changing things, not because they need to be changed, but I need to be doing something different. So for the first time, I started feeling I'm actually not looking forward to going to work, which is very unusual. And that for me is usually my first trigger that my time is up. So I found I would really struggle, to get up and go to the office. And if I'm not giving it my all, then I will have a problem. So I knew it was actually my time to pack my bags and leave.
And leave.
Yeah.
And start something new. Is that what you'd have called your retirement?
With hindsight, perhaps, but then it wasn't
and we
retirement.
And we were going to redefine retirement.
Yes. Then I wouldn't have thought that way, but I just thought I need just to do something that I'm doing with my whole self, not just reporting because
something that you love to do.
I want to be, present and immersed in what I'm doing, not just being seen there. So to be very candid, I would love to say I was all figured out and planned. No, I wasn't.
You didn't realize, but you that's where your retirement.
That's where my retirement began. But I knew I just needed a break. Actually, what I did just before I left, and my boss doesn't know this, but I interviewed. And then after a while I said, so I'm going to shift. What's going to be different? Because there will be excitement for the first few months because it's a new environment. But it's just going to be the same thing. And I thought that won't be fair to whoever would give me the job. So I actually stopped. And I just said, I just need 3 months of doing nothing. Sit at home, think, and just figure out what exactly do I want. And it sounded really exciting.
That I think is my cue. We need to take a pause there because
Yes.
you're starting
the
conversation.
Okay.
Which is the main conversation for today. We talk about retirement. And we have very interesting perspectives about retirement. We are going to see whether Catherine and I have the same perspective about retirement.
Yes.
So we're going to take a break there. Please stay tuned in and watch the next episode. Thank you.